Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here as always, and today I want to talk about The Director and the Jedi. The Director and the Jedi is the basically 1 hour-ish and change documentary that came out on the Last Jedi Blu-ray. I really enjoy The Last Jedi. I really appreciate Rian Johnson as a creative. The Last Jedi wasn't a perfect movie. No movie is. But for what it's worth, I feel that it's my favorite Star Wars movie, and man, The Director and the Jedi, that is a fantastic documentary. They straight up, like, every single day of filming, they had, like, the entire crew, the entire cast all wired up while the documentary crew was there during the shooting of the movie. They don't even, a lot of these documentaries, they go very, oh, the creative and wonderful parts of Star Wars, and this is just the dream come true because I can finally do a Jedi Star Wars movie. I'm making a Star Wars. And they tend to kind of end up in that direction. Like, at least in my opinion, I think the Force Awakens one did that a little bit. The one that came out on the Force Awakens Blu-ray. But this one, they took a lot more time, and it's a lot more nuanced, and they do talk about the setbacks and the issues and the conflicts in between Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill. Like, it's no secret that Mark Hamill didn't like the way that Rian Johnson was going with Luke Skywalker, and even to this day, he's not as happy with it as what he had built up in his own head, and that's totally fine. Mark Hamill is a fan too. Yes, he plays the character, but he's a fan. And he's more than right to his opinion. Also, real quick, just as a fair point, just going to say I was watching the South by Southwest interview where they premiered The Director and the Jedi. And they had a panel with Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill admits to the time when right when Kylo stabs, pokes his saber through Luke and realizes that Luke's not actually there, Mark Hamill proposed to Ryan that, hey, so am I going to grow like 10 feet tall and then 20 feet tall and then 40 feet tall and then 100 feet tall and then I'm just going to start stomping all over these. So Mark Hamill can have bad ideas. Not saying that Rian Johnson can't, just saying Mark Hamill can have the wrong idea. Just saying. I'll take a Godzilla movie in Star Wars. The Zilla Beast arc in Clone Wars is amazing. But, no. Luke Skywalker Godzilla? No thanks. Anyways, back to the actual documentary, and I imagine I'll end up talking about the hatred for The Last Jedi even more. But back to the documentary for the time being. The next big revelation that I got out of this is a more nuanced understanding to how important Ron Bergman is to Rian Johnson's process, and how really when Rian Johnson makes a movie, it's Ron Bergman that allows him to make that movie in the first place. There's a very good reason for them working together for as long as they do. It is very much a process in which Rian Johnson comes at him and says, here's all my ideas. And then Ron Bergman kind of goes, yeah, that's nice. But while we do have a very large budget, it is not infinite. And scheduling is also a thing that we need to consider. So maybe we should just build the set here and not go to Iceland. Just, if you don't mind, is that okay? And, it helps to pull that creative insanity into check. And that makes me very hopeful for the Rian Johnson trilogy, as long as Rian Johnson, who seems to actually appreciate and understand how much Ron Bergman does for him, and how much Ron Bergman helps with the creative process, I'm very hopeful that they stay together for whatever Rian Johnson's trilogy is going to be. And I think that the last thing that really hit home with me with this documentary is plain and simply how much of a fan Rian Johnson is. He is us. Like, as much as you may not like the movie, which is totally fine, you're allowed to not like it, Rian Johnson made a fan film. And that's what he wanted to make. And at least in my opinion, I think it's one of the best damn fan films that has ever been produced. Because let's face it, anything that, even George Lucas's 1977 Star Wars, before they even added in the A New Hope in Chapter 4, Episode 4, even before that, like, even that was a fan film. That was a fan film of Ben-Hur and Kurosawa films and whatever. I think that Rian Johnson is a Star Wars fan. Just like J.J. Abrams is a Star Wars fan. Just like Gareth Edwards is a Star Wars fan who's now getting to tell stories in this universe. And I think the reason why Rian Johnson is such a good choice to continue telling stories in the universe of Star Wars, the galaxy far, far away, is plain and simply that he is a fan who understands when to not be a fan a little bit and be a storyteller. Because I get it. I would love to have seen Luke Skywalker do insane things for 2 hours, flinging ATM-6s like toys all over the place. I would love to have seen that. But the story that he gave us was this very intimate tale in between Rose and Finn, in between Poe and Holdo, in between Leia and Luke, in between Rey and Kylo, in between Rey and Luke, in between just all of these different characters. And that's what he was concentrating on. He even mentions in this documentary and in that interview at South by Southwest, he mentions that there was always that temptation to just go crazy. That, he wanted to, a part of Rian Johnson wanted to lift that X-Wing up out of or have Luke lift that X-Wing up out of the ocean and just say, all right, let's go. And then watch 2.5 hours of Luke frickin' Skywalker being a Force god, leaping across and slicing Star Destroyers in half. But he realized that it's more important to tell a story and not just make, wow, that's so cool kind of films. Like, I think that that's the reason why I like Rian Johnson so much. He's interested in telling a story. And yes, surprises for the sake of being surprised. Yeah, that's what makes a good movie, is to not recognize things when they're coming, to not understand where the story's going, is to have the entire experience of, no matter what medium it is, whether or not it's a book, whether or not it is a YouTube video, whether or not it is a movie or a fan fiction that you find on fanfic.net, or a television series or anything. The entire point of the story is to experience it as the storyteller is giving it to you, not just to set your imagination to maximum. Or rather, let me rephrase that to not to set your daydream to maximum, but to turn your imagination to maximum. That is what the goal of a story is. That is the point of sitting down and listening to a story or consuming a story. At least, I don't know. That's just me. Yeah, I figured. I'm talking about TLJ again, so of course I'm going to go on a soapbox rant about how much I loved it. I really want to be clear to you guys. If you didn't like The Last Jedi, that's fine. You're not wrong to dislike The Last Jedi. You're not wrong to hate The Last Jedi. I really didn't like Rogue One. At a certain point, within the few weeks after I first saw it, I hated Rogue One too. But just don't go tweeting Rian Johnson about it. I didn't get on and start screaming at Gary Whitta for ruining my childhood because, well, at the end of the day, it's a space movie about space wizards, and the director in The Jedi shows the light side of that, which is that while it is just a space movie, it's also something that ignites something in all of humankind. It's a strange thing. And I'm not sure who's going to decode it or win, but I think Rian Johnson's on a pretty good streak to figure it out. And I'm hopeful for what JJ does with episode 9 and whatever the Game of Thrones guys do and whatever Favreau does with the TV series. I am looking forward to experiencing more and more Star Wars with you guys. And I'm not going to like some of it, and that's okay. I hope that other people do. I don't know. That's where I stand. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here, guys. My recent podcast that I just started doing with Katie, Josh, and Edward is going to be linked down below. We're going to have a new episode up at the first of every month, and that means we've got another episode coming up real soon. Actually, it probably already has been up by the time that you're watching this video, so be sure to check that out on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio and Google Play and wherever you can catch your podcasts at, and be sure to follow that on Twitter. I'll have that linked down in the description, as well as my personal Twitter, which is at SW Ramblings, and the Twitch channel where I stream every Sunday from 3 p.m. Central Standard Time until sometime later. We'll see. Thank you guys as always. And as always, may the Force be with you guys. Take care.